The message arrived at 3:14 p.m., just 3 lines. No greeting, no warmth, just finality. Don't show up to Dad's party. You're not part of this family. Try and I'll call security. Chase Carrington, my half-brother, 3 years younger, full-time executive part-time gatekeeper of all things Carrington & Sons. His words always came trimmed like hedge lines in our childhood estate, sharp, clean, and designed to cut. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to, as if some other message might appear beneath it. Something softer. Something that said he didn't mean it. It never came. A second buzz lit up the screen. Maddie, please understand. Tonight is crucial for your father's business relationships. Don't make things harder than they need to be. Diane Carrington. My stepmother always phrased cruelty like it was a favor. Please understand. As if I hadn't spent years trying. I set the phone down slowly, letting it rest on the edge of my desk, beside a tarnished silver compass, my mother's. She gave it to me the day I left for MIT. On the back, the words still shimmered beneath the worn metal "Never follow maps." Make your own. I hadn't seen Leonard Carrington, my father, in nearly 5 years. Not since the day he called my engineering patents a cute hobby. Not since he said I was wasting my family name. Now he was turning 60. A country club soiree, investors, politicians, and apparently no room for his only daughter, at least not the one who had stopped being useful. I leaned back in the chair, eyes drifting to the framed Wired magazine cover across the room. Madeline Kane, the quiet force behind Volterra battery systems. They didn't know. None of them knew. What does it mean when your family treats your absence like a gift and your presence like a threat? The compass ticked slightly as the sun shifted through the window. I already knew my answer. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I walked out of Carrington Automotive's glass tower with nothing but a messenger bag and my mother's compass in hand. I remember the conversation clearly, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet in the worst way. Electric batteries are a dead end, my father had said, flipping through the sketches I'd printed. We make engines, real engines, not toys for the tree huggers. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look up. Just pushed the papers aside like lint on his sleeve. I was 26, fresh off a dual degree from MIT. My thesis had been cited by 3 EV think tanks, but in that room in his office I was a girl with cute diagrams. And Diane. She stood beside him, arms folded, face unreadable. This company has a future, Maddie, but not if we throw it away on science projects. That was the last meeting I ever took in that building. They offered me a VP role. Corner office, full benefits, even a parking spot with my name on it. I turned it down, politely. Then I disappeared. Not to sulk, not to rebel, but to build. Volterra Technologies began in the back corner of a shared lab at Green Tech Park. I slept in my car more times than I can count. Ate from vending machines, learned to solder between grant rejections and late-night panic attacks. People think building something new is glamorous. It's not. It's lonely, quiet. Like grief, but with more spreadsheets. But I believed in it. I believed in her, the girl with the compass and a folder full of fantasy. The first person to notice I was gone, Chase. He removed me from the family group chat a week after I left. No message. Just gone. Like I'd never been the sister who stayed up tutoring him through college physics, who covered for him when he failed thermo and didn't want our father to know. I didn't even blame him. He was protecting his future, the golden son, the real Carrington heir. And me, I took my mother's maiden name Kane and became someone else. It's strange how long you can live without being missed. Stranger still how no one ever asks why you left, only when you'll come back. But I wasn't coming back. Not for them. Only for the truth. If no one remembers what you gave, does that mean it never mattered? The call came just past 6 p.m. while I was standing barefoot in the kitchen watching the kettle boil, but not remembering if I'd added water. Everything's set for tonight, Jeremy said. His voice was steady-clipped. He always saved warmth for off hours. Harrison's team confirmed the announcement. You sure you want to do it this way? Jeremy Lee had been with me since the beginning. Back when Volterra was just a hopeful name and a hacked-together lab bench, He'd walked away from a guaranteed six-figure role at Tesla to help me build something no one believed in, except us. I turned off the burner, watching the red coil fade to black. "Yes," I said. "I need to be there. He needs to see me. Leonard." "All of them." Jeremy paused. "Then James Harrison personally asked you be present. You're the face now, Maddie. It's time." James Harrison wasn't just another investor. He was the investor. Billionaire, quiet, controlled. The kind of man whose name made CEOs stand straighter and reporters turn off their recorders. His firm had been circling Carrington Automotive for months, watching it bleed market share and cash flow in real time. But he hadn't pulled the trigger. Not until Volterra stepped in. Not until I said I'll offer them first rights, but I'll deliver the offer myself. I got dressed in silence. No designer label, no flashy branding. Just a navy dress with clean lines, flat black heels, and my mother's compass around my neck. It clicked gently as I moved, like a heartbeat too soft to hear. Downstairs, the car was waiting. I paused at the door, my hand on the knob. My pulse suddenly loud in my ears. "They won't know who you are," Jeremy had said once. "They will," I'd replied. "But not yet." I stood there for a full minute, the weight of the night pressing behind my ribs. Then I opened the door and stepped into the cold. If you're the answer to their prayers, but they don't know it's you, do you still owe them a miracle? The Carrington Country Club hadn't changed. Same limestone pillars. Same wrought iron gates curled like thorns. Same valet in white gloves who smiled too fast and asked too little. I stepped out of the car and smoothed the front of my coat. For a moment, I caught my reflection in the long glass windows, tall, still unfamiliar. Inside, chandeliers shimmered like frozen fireworks. Jazz floated through the air like expensive perfume. A gold banner hung across the far wall. "Happy 60th Leonard," elegant script. No warmth. At the front entrance, a tablet flickered in the hands of a woman with glossy blonde hair and nerves leaking through her smile. Emma Carrington, Chase's wife. Always polite, always rehearsed. Her eyes widened when she saw me. One hand clutched her tablet tighter. The other reached instinctively for her phone. "Maddie, Emma, you're not—" "I mean, Chase said James Harrison's office called ahead," I said calmly. "I believe you'll find my name on the list." Her fingers fumbled across the screen. I waited still. "It's here," she whispered, blinking. "But how? It doesn't matter how." I walked past her before she could decide whether to smile or summon help. The ballroom was a museum of ghosts. Every corner carried a memory I didn't want to revisit. Diane stood near the bar, wrapped in emerald silk, laughing too loudly with a local councilman. Chase circled the room like a host on a political campaign, back straight tie perfect. None of them saw me. Or maybe they did and just didn't recognize what they were looking at. I moved slowly unnoticed. Just another guest in a navy dress. Near the hors d'oeuvres table, I felt a soft tap on my arm. Diane. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Madeline," she said in a voice too sweet. "This isn't the time. Isn't it you've made your choice? Why stir things up now?" I tilted my head slightly. She was nervous, but not for the reasons I expected. "Are you afraid I'll make a scene? I'm afraid you'll be right," she said lower now. "And he won't know what to do with that." Before I could answer, the room shifted. A subtle ripple. Conversation dimmed. Heads turned toward the entrance. James Harrison had arrived. The most powerful man in the room. Gray suit, clean lines, no smile. And behind him, silence followed like a shadow. What happens when the one they cast out walks back in with the one they crave? James Harrison moved through the room like a tide no one could resist. He didn't speak right away. He didn't have to. People parted instinctively. Politicians, executives, legacy board members, like something sacred had entered the room, and no one wanted to be caught blocking its path. My father, Leonard Carrington, stepped forward firsthand, outstretched smile wide and blinding. "James, a real honor. We're all eager to hear the big announcement tonight." James shook his hand briefly. "Cordial, controlled. Quite a turnout, Leonard," he said. "Though truth be told, I'm here to meet someone. He let the sentence dangle in the air like smoke. Then his eyes swept the room twice before landing squarely on me. He said, his voice rising just enough to carry. There she is, every head turned, every breath held, and the moment snapped. He crossed the floor toward me, slow and deliberate. My father's smile faltered. Diane's face froze. Chase went still beside a tray of champagne. Miss Kane James said, extending his hand to me. Or should I say, Miss Carrington. The silence cracked. It didn't explode, it cracked like a sheet of ice under too much pressure. Someone gasped. Somewhere a glass slipped and shattered on marble. My father turned his face, searching. I don't understand, he managed. You know her? James chuckled lightly. Leonard, your daughter is the reason we're all standing here tonight. Did you truly not know? He turned slightly, addressing the room. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to formally introduce the founder and CEO of Volterra Technologies, Madeline Carrington Kane. No one moved, not even me. You've been chasing Volterra for months, I said softly, stepping forward. Meeting after meeting, proposal after proposal. And yet, I looked at my father, really looked. You never once imagined the person you were so desperate to meet was the one you told to stop wasting time on batteries. That's not possible, Chase blurted, voice cracking. You've done nothing since you left. Nothing. I tilted my head. That nothing currently powers 4 of the top 5 EV manufacturers in North America. That nothing is worth $3.8 billion. Leonard staggered slightly, reaching for the back of a chair. The patents. The technology. That was you, I nodded. And for the first time I saw it, recognition trying to outrun disbelief. You raised the girl who rebuilt the industry, James said simply. You just weren't looking. Diane stepped forward, her voice sharp with panic. Leonard, you can't let her take control. Everything we've built. You mean the company clinging to combustion engines in a market shifting electric, I interrupted. The company with 3/4 of declining profits. That company. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to, because I wasn't angry. I was undeniable. James reached into his briefcase and pulled out a slim folder. As discussed, Volterra Technologies will acquire 58% controlling interest in Carrington Automotive. Miss Carrington will assume CEO duties effective immediately. The whispers started low, then rippled. Chase turned red. Diane's face paled. And my father, he said nothing, just stared. What do you say? When the daughter you disowned becomes the only reason your name might survive. My father still hadn't spoken. His hand hovered above the folder James had placed on the cocktail table, fingertips brushing the edge like touching it might burn him. I watched his eyes scan the cover, watched them flicker to the Volterra logo, my logo printed in stark navy blue, a name he'd never spoken tied to a daughter he never truly saw. Maddie, he said finally, voice paper thin. Why didn't you ever tell me I smiled soft but unsparing? I did. A pause. 5 years ago, in your office. I brought you drawings, projections, a working prototype. You called them childish, told me to grow up and learn real business. He looked down. No rebuttal, only silence. Chase stepped in, fists clenched, voice rising. Dad, you can't let her do this. She left. She gave up her place. She doesn't deserve. Be quiet, Chase. The words cut clean. Even Diane blinked. But just stop. My father's voice steadied, now darker. You had every opportunity. And you didn't do what she did. He turned to me again, but I held his gaze with steel. This was never about deserving, I said. It was about who could save what's left. Diane crossed the room, then no more emerald grace, no practiced charm, just sharp lines and harder eyes. You think this makes you better? She hissed. You think showing up with lawyers and numbers erases what you walked away from? I didn't walk away, I said calmly. I was pushed. She laughed, brittle. You've always needed to be the smartest, the special one. Well, congratulations. You're alone, and all you've built won't change that." I didn't reply, because there was nothing left to argue. My eyes drifted to the center of the room where a portrait of my father hung above the fireplace. Bronze frame, confident smile, legacy lighting. It looked down at all of us like nothing had changed. But it had. Everything had. James Harrison cleared his throat gently. "Shall we proceed?" The folder lay open now, ready. And so was I. What's left of a family, when the truth finally speaks louder than the blood. The party had thinned. Some guests had left early, others huddled near the bar, whispering between glances. Chase was nowhere to be seen. Diane had retreated behind a closed door, likely calling the family attorney. I stood alone on the back terrace where the cold felt cleaner than the air inside. Beyond the glass, laughter rose, hollow, misplaced. Inside, the Carrington name was being rewritten. Outside, I could finally breathe. The door creaked behind me. I didn't turn. But I heard the footsteps, slower than I remembered. Softer, too. "Maddie," my father said quietly. I let the silence stretch between us. He moved beside me not too close. He looked out over the lawn like it held the answers he'd never asked for. "That night you left. I remember you standing in my office with that folder. I didn't even look." "No, you didn't. I was wrong." He said it simply. No plea, no qualifiers. About everything. I glanced at him then, just once. He looked older now, not in the face, but in the eyes. Like something he'd leaned on had finally collapsed and all that remained was the truth. "Can you ever forgive me?" he asked. I reached up, unfastened the chain around my neck, and held out the compass. This helped me find my way when no one else believed I had one. He looked at it but didn't take it, so I set it down between us on the stone railing. "I'm not here to go back," I said. "I'm here to build something forward. If you're ready to learn from your daughter, I'll teach you." He nodded, not eagerly, not perfectly, but humbly, for the first time in his life. Sometimes the cost of not listening is everything you never knew you had. Monday morning came colder than usual. A sharp sky-flat light and frost tracing the edges of the windows at Carrington Automotive, soon to be Carrington Volterra Technologies. I walked through the main lobby as strangers whispered and familiar faces looked away, unsure how to greet a name they'd once deleted from their history. Chase's office was dark, empty, the nameplate already removed. Diane's artwork sculptures oil prints that ridiculous wall of abstract metal had been boxed overnight. Legacy didn't last long when ownership changed hands. My new office was at the top of the east wing. Same view, different gravity. On the desk, a single box wrapped in navy tissue. No note, just a package. I opened it slowly. Inside was my mother's old MIT engineering textbook, worn at the edges, held together by yellowed tape. One page had been marked with a faded envelope. I opened it. The handwriting was unmistakable. Tilted, neat, familiar. For Madeline, when the world finally sees what I've always seen. I held the page in both hands, not shaking, just still. The room was quiet except for the tick of the wall clock. Across from me, sunlight fell through the blinds, catching the silver glint of the compass on the stone windowsill. I'd left it there where he could see it, where he could decide what to do with it. I looked out at the city I'd once left behind, not as a daughter, not as a ghost, but as the architect of something new. And I didn't need to explain that to anyone anymore. They once asked why I left. They never asked what I built. If silence ever saved you, just leave a single dot.